strange memories on this nervous night in Las Vegas. Has it been 5 years? 6? It seems like a lifetime. The kind of peak that never comes again. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be a part of. But no explanation, no mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in that corner of time in the world. Whatever it meant. Anywhere. There was a fantastic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right, that we were winning. And that, I think, was the handle. That sense of inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense. We didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So now, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west. And with the right kind of eyes, you can almost see the high water mark. That place where the wave finally broke.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Good to see you. Thanks for waiting. I didn't set my alarm last night. My bad, guys. Thanks for being patient. I'm here though. NBC The Game Live. Your host Gabriel. Coming streaming from you live from Taiwan. Yeah, that's the place. What's up, Wiccan? Thanks for being here. Appreciate you, my friend. Let's go, Shadow Buddha. In the building, my brother. Appreciate you sending me a message. Yeah, fucking. Guess I needed to get some more sleep. Markella, good to see you. Hit the donos. Donations are always appreciated. Markella, thank you so much for that great conversation we had yesterday. You are amazing. So shout out to the chat, roll call. Ahimsa, yes. How's it going? I think I fell asleep looking at your message, and I was about to respond on there. Those are some good ideas, especially the Joe Cool one. I like that one. We're gonna have to talk about that one. I'm gonna have to get him because I already asked him already for like a conversation or whatever. But I think if I put it to him, like, that specific topic. Ben would that be good for him and for anyone else that wants to learn about auditing, what it means. Yeah, I appreciate that. So yeah, my fam's in the building. Yeah, thank you. My fam's in the building. We're gonna see what we can do in 30 minutes. Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming through. Today's topic is: Did Islam influence the founding fathers? The hidden history they didn't teach you. They, probably your schools, even your parents. Because as a parent, I'm learning that for me, I have to have a curriculum myself that I want to teach my son. Yeah, as well as what he does in school, the school system. So. Today, how we do it here. We connect the dots between history and consciousness, psychology, and more importantly, real life, using astrology and other modes. because I think understanding the past helps us level up in the present. You know, yeah. I did put a video out today about no. Thank you. Oh shit. Perfect. Perfect. I think you sent it to me. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Markella. I'm gonna have to play that one. He said went back and listened last night. Amazing courage. Yeah, hats off to you for sharing, doing something with the manure of life. Yeah. We use manure to make flowers, right? Transformation. Yeah. So today we're gonna talk about Islam, how it influenced the founding father, especially Thomas Jefferson himself, who surprisingly to some of y'all might not know, he owned a Quran, and we're gonna break down the contradictions and the secrets and the life lessons from this whole situation. So let's get into it. Yeah, I'll give you a little heads up in the fact that that Quran, like that Jefferson had, what's the deal with that? Like, so first off, Jefferson, he owned this Quran, and it wasn't by accident. The dude was brilliant, and he brought that book. He bought that book when he was around 22 years old, which is pretty young. And like myself and some of my other cohorts, we're curious about all religions, and Jefferson wanted to know what Islam was really about, especially because America was at that time beefing with North African Muslims, Tunisia, and the pirates and the Muslim pirates at that time were they called that the Barbary Wars, right? And yeah, so you wanted to know what was really going on with that. And let me give you some more background on this. Today we're going to look at parts of this video called "How Muslims Influenced Thomas Jefferson's and America." And this is from American Muslim series on PBS from about 5 months ago. Let's get after it.
The Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. is one of America's oldest federal institutions. Among its vast collections, many materials date back to our nation's founding. I've come here to see two books that offer very different views of the early United States and the place of Muslims within it.
It's cool. I didn't know it looked like that, the Library of Congress. I assume you have to make an appointment to go there.
One book contains an English translation of the Quran, Islam's sacred text, and was once owned by Thomas Jefferson.
Look at that. It's in good condition.
That's Jefferson's initial.
I can't even keep a book like
before
that.
The I.
The other book was written by an enslaved African man brought to America during Jefferson's presidency.
How's it going, Wheels? How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. Wheels softball. Yeah.
See. On this first page, that's Quran, isn't it?
It is. Omar ibn Said was a teacher of Islam before he was sold into slavery.
So there were African American folks that were slaves brought over from Africa that were Muslims and were writing their autobiographies.
Together, these two books represent the promise and contradictions of America, where some Muslims were included in ideas of religious freedom championed by the nation's founders, while others were denied all their rights.
There's Umar on the left,
including the right to practice their religion. Thomas Jefferson is well known as the author of the Declaration of Independence and for serving as the third president of the United States. He's less well known for owning a copy of the Quran. That began to change in 2007 when Keith Ellison, the first Muslim elected to Congress, swore his private oath of office on Jefferson's copy of the Quran.
People didn't know that Jefferson owned a Quran and had it as an important part of his library, but the United States has always been a country with an Islamic presence. Never not. Never not.
Yeah, Muslims aren't some just new thing to
Muslims
show
are
up in
rarely
America.
mentioned in the story of the nation's founding. So I want to know more about why Jefferson owned a copy of the Quran and what it can tell us about the place of Muslims in early America.
The fact that Jefferson has a copy of the Al-Quran is a tribute to the power of Islam and Muslims in world history. This was one of the great texts of the world. In order to be an educated person, you had to know about the Quran.
Jefferson's fundamental curiosity would compel him to buy a Quran, to learn about Islam.
You show up to that guy, Vincent Brown,
Curiosity would compel
professor.
him to buy a Quran,
You show up to Harvard your freshman year. That's your professor. That'd be so cool.
to learn about Islam, to want to think about what Islamic philosophy would teach him about government.
Look at that. That's the Kaaba. That old picture. Look at that. How you now it looks like there's a football stadium around it. Wow.
These revolutionary leaders who became the head of government were great readers.
Yeah, most of them were Masons, especially what's his name? First president George Washington, the general, right? He was a Muslim, and the more you look into to Masonry, you'll see the farther you get into it, that Islam is literally the tenets of Islam are talked about. What is it? The crescent moon and the stars and the imagery and the words used, and some of the Islamic philosophies are embedded in the higher degrees of Masonry. I'm not a Mason. I have some in my family. I have good friends who are above 33 degrees allegedly, and they've seen some of the research I was doing on Islam, and they were like, "What?" Like basically kind of tipping their hat, like, "How do you know about this? The connection of Islam and Masonry." So it's not a surprise that Thomas Jefferson had one.
And the British before them had, in fact, contact with Muslim kingdoms.
No, I know he wasn't. I know Washington wasn't a Muslim, but he was a Mason. Mason. What's up? What's up, Nick? How's it going? Yeah.
Such as the Ottoman Empire from the 16th
Some
century.
of the, like I was saying, some of the degrees of Masonry, they have Islamic tenets on there. Even some of the sub fraternities, like the Shriners, are open with their Islamic symbols and whatnot.
And North African kingdoms in the 17th century. So Americans were great readers. And the British before them had, in fact, contact with Muslim kingdoms, such as the Ottoman Empire from the 16th century and North African kingdoms in the 17th century. So Americans inherited a
Hey,
transit.
but you know what? Shit, that could be a Freudian slip. Like, who knows? Maybe he was maybe not a Muslim, but like I said, he valued the certain tenets of what they had to say. And this is a good point right here. This is probably my main point of doing this. Jefferson was a student of multiple religions. Yes, that's what we're all about. Joseph Campbell, the great professor of comparative religion. Me, NBC, the game. Gabriel, I'm a student of many religions and whatnot. Raised a Catholic, proud of growing up Catholic and whatnot. But we did the African Methodist. Did research on that. Islamic. My father, being from Mali, they have Islamic roots there. Studied that. Buddhism. That's part of the reason why I'm here, probably in Taiwan. Taoism, what else we got? Hinduism. We used to go to the ashram in the Bay Area. There's a lot of interesting things out there. And then at the core of a lot of these religions is knowledge of God, which is knowledge of self.
Atlantic connection. Islam wasn't as foreign as many people would have thought it would have been at the time.
At least.
Sometimes we think about America and its relationship to the West and this kind of manifest destiny and pushing West, rather than the Atlantic world relationships that were essential at the end of the 18th century and through the 19th century. When we think about early America, the founders, it was a profoundly global moment.
My next stop.
Yeah, I think we'll say, Nick. I get this vibe too from you. You could be they say self-initiated Muslims. You could be like on a streamline, like your own curriculum of a lot of the Masonic tendencies of it. In a lot of ways, us people who are self-initiated are know more about the mysteries of life than the architecture of life than those who are aka travelers, Masons, right? A lot of people join Masonry for different reasons. Some of it is for fellowship and social reasons, and others it's for the knowledge. I think most of them do it for social reasons and networking, business networking. Yeah, so it could be. Let's go. What's up, Shadow Buddha in the building? Good to have you, brother. Everybody, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Shadow Buddha. Yes, man.
Is Jefferson's home in Central Virginia, a mansion that reflects the power and privilege of early America's white land-holding elite. This is where Jefferson kept a copy of his Quran before sending
Beautiful
most of
house.
his books to the Library of Congress.
That house though was built, mostly by slavery, with slave labor, and you could see when you go to the bricks, the little finger, the fingerprints of the black slaves that helped, who helped build this, the kids.
In 1815.
Amen.
Pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
How you doing?
Welcome to Monticello.
Thank you.
Historian John Ragosta has spent much of his career
Monticello.
studying Jefferson, especially his attitude towards religion and its role in the early republic.
Here you go, Nick.
So, Amen, welcome.
Look at the Native American stuff. These guys were like a hodgepodge of integrating all the cultures and religions and philosophies. These great founding fathers. However, they were great, but they also were a big contradiction because on one end they talk about men need to be free, and they have there's natural law that gives them natural rights. Yet such a big portion of the people that helped build the country were subjugated as slaves. So big contradictions, which a lot of us are to this day. Keep it 100.
Welcome to Jefferson's study. This, before he sends all those books to the Library of Congress, this would have been lined with books. There would have been bookcases everywhere. He has 6,500 books that he sells to the Library of Congress. And of course, among them is his Quran. So people talk about the Jefferson Quran. Sometimes hear people say, well, he wanted to know his enemies.
Yeah.
It's completely ridiculous.
I mean, that could be part of it too. Yeah. I mean, there's Christians that study the Satanic Bible, maybe for that reason, but be careful. You may become what you're trying to defeat.
He buys that Quran in 1765 when he's a student. He's interested in comparative religion. He's interested in law.
That religion, comparative religion and law. At the time, Islamic scholars, for many years, hundreds of years, Islamic scholars were like the forefronters with mathematics and science and astronomy, as well as law and rhetoric.
A number of books on North African nations, on Muslim nations, they're probably over in that area of the library.
What does that say about Jefferson compared to some of his peers?
He's certainly more advanced than many people of his era in this regard. That through science, through our minds, the illimitable freedom of the human mind Jefferson talks about, we're going to
Freedom
improve.
of the human mind. Freedom of the human mind, panel verse. Are you going to be a slave to drama all the time? Or are you going to try to unlock your mind? This is why we're here, Benjamin and friends. Unlock your mind, man. Even if you don't do it with me, at least have some self-respect for yourself to want more for yourself in terms of your evolution of consciousness.
Each generation is going to learn from the last. And it's through study of things like the Quran
Yes, I agree.
and comparative religion, through studies of comparative laws. That's going to make us a better people. Let's go on into the parlor. Here on the wall, we see the great explorers, political leaders,
on that shit,
scientists, and philosophers. Francis Bacon, Isaac Newton, and John Locke.
What does your house look like?
John
Who would you put up, chat? Pictures of your thinkers that motivated you.
He actually has to flee
What intellectual shoulders did you stand on?
England because religious disputes he's worried about his life at that point in time. He writes the second letter of toleration, and Locke says we should be open politically to Jews and to Mohammedans, which is the term they would use for Muslims.
Pagans or Jews, that's it. Mohammedan. No, pagans are people, who don't believe in Christianity. We should be open to all religions, basically.
It says we can go further than Locke. In America, all people can participate in religious freedom.
All people, okay. I like the sound of that.
Jefferson's commitment to the idea that all citizens
Maybe some of you people in the panelverse don't like it, but I like that. We like
free
that
to
over
practice
here.
their religion as they choose can be seen in a bill he wrote for the Virginia State Legislature in 1777. A document that's thought to have shaped the religious clauses in the Bill of Rights. Some founders argued that the government should favor Protestant Christians over all other traditions. But Jefferson was clear.
Wait, isn't that sound familiar here in the panelverse where some people think Christians, I think like Andrew Wilson, should be the sole arbitrators of how United States is run?
In his autobiography, he stated that his law included the Jew and the Gentile, the Christian and the Mohammedan.
That's crazy. Those people you talked about last night, adopted dad was a Freemason, your adopted mother was bro. That's the evil part of it, like you said, right? There are some good ones on it, like my great grandfather and whatnot, my brother, but yeah, that's wild.
The Hindu and the infidel of every denomination.
So at the very foundation of this country, there was one of the founding fathers imagining Muslim Americans.
Absolutely. He understands that's going to happen.
To think about Muslims as future citizens was a way of imagining a completely new nation that included more than just Christians, particularly Protestant Christians.
Bringing
Is that a Benjamin Franklin right there? Shadow Buddha said most likely Benjamin Franklin, the guy that loved the ladies and also wrote about he wrote about self-actualization. He was an inventor, and he liked to get women, man. Like he liked to fucking make love to women. It wasn't shy of that. Yeah, man. It's like, when's the last time you've been on a date, guys? Or dating? That sounds weird, but like, do you even have your ambition to want to meet a woman to spend time with and maybe have a family with? Are we not men?
Muslims into the conversation, mentioning them in documents. There's some foreshadowing of the hopes.
This historian, she did the research. We did listen to her talk about how the Ahmadiyya society in the Middle East, they influenced Master Farad Muhammad and the Nation of Islam.
Aspirations of what the country could become.
Where are we right now?
Well, we're actually coming up on Thomas Jefferson's grave site, which is down below the Monticello, the house.
So he put on his grave
this is where
site.
Jefferson is buried. And
religious
unlike
freedom.
most of us, Jefferson actually specifies what he wants on his tombstone. And he says, I want it to say, here was buried Thomas Jefferson, author of the American Declaration of Independence, of the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom, and father of the University of Virginia. And then he writes, and not a word more.
To see religious freedom on the tombstone, that feels very significant.
This was America. This is the nation they were building. It's going to be built on political freedom, religious freedom, public education. And they're interrelated. It's a three-legged stool.
Buddha was built in the building said Christian nationalism is a danger to society, especially from minority religions, right? Like Buddhism, even though it's not a minority religion in the world, Islam, right? Yeah, right. Hinduism. That is because they want their religion at all costs, whereas the founding fathers didn't want that. I mean, at least they said in their laws. Now, did they practice that in real life? I don't think so.
Jefferson's vision of America offered the possibility that any citizen of any faith could practice it freely. It opened the door for all citizens to participate politically, too.
And the fact that Jefferson held on to the image of Muslims as people who might one day not only have religious freedom, but political equality is really the beginning, I think, of his political understanding of a future society that had a universal, inclusive precedence for the future.
That's how it is now, even though we have a lot of separation and divisiveness.
Jefferson clearly thought about Muslims in theory. In practice, he had little contact. Documents from the time record just one meeting with a Muslim man here in the United States, which took place while Jefferson was president.
In 1805, the first Muslim ambassador to the United States arrived from Tunis. We were in the middle of an undeclared war that Thomas Jefferson had waged against Tripoli. Tunis was an ally of Tripoli. So the Tunisian ambassador was sent to negotiate with President Jefferson. He was dressed in finery of all sorts of brocade.
Yeah, this guy, what's his name, Salamini. He was a diplomat, right? And he came to this White House dinner during Ramadan. And what's up, Gary Bastard? Good to see you, brother. Too bad public education is broken with government and medicine. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Taiwan, I mean, they still use the Prussian system here, but at least these kids here are getting a good handle on STEM, like mathematics and science and engineering. Yeah, you're evil. Yeah, but this guy, Saeed Salaman, he was a diplomat, and he came to the White House in 1805 when Jefferson was president. And it was during Ramadan, and instead of the typical dinner time, which they were scheduled to eat like at 3:45, which is very early, like a boomer, I guess. But Salamini was like, "Dude, it's Ramadan. You know, we don't eat after sunset." And being that Jefferson was versed in Islam and had that Quran and whatnot, he was like, okay, let's set the dinner after sunset to honor the Ramadan fasting. So this was the first recorded White House what do they call it? Iftar? Yeah, iftar. That's like the first meal you eat right after you've been fasting all day. So this is the first White House iftar in U.S. history. And that's a whole nother thing about the fasting, which is interesting about and very helpful about the some of the customs from Islam and whatnot. So yeah, he honored that because he had knowledge of the comparative religions and whatnot. And so like, why does that matter? Well, it matters because Jefferson, despite his flaws and being a contradictory, like, you know, talking about freedom, religious freedom and freedom for men, had slaves, right? But he believed in at least that public religion had to have tolerance, and even if it's behind closed doors, which is kind of a contradiction in the way he moved with his slaves and stuff. But but there were also enslaved black Muslims in America that that had autobiographies. Um, there were quite a few Muslims that were brought here to my home America, right, from Africa against their will. One of them was Umar Said, who was a West African scholar who wrote his autobiography in Arabic while he was enslaved in North Carolina, and he even quoted parts of the Quran. And I think at one time he was arrested, and he wrote on the wall in Arabic, and they'd probably never seen anything like that. After he escaped, one of the times he escaped before he became free, and he wrote it on the wall in Arabic. There was another guy named Job Ben Salameen, who was another famous Muslim slave who eventually got free and returned to Africa, and he was a teacher even when he was here and when he was free in America. And so think about that. These brothers were stolen from Islamic cultures, knew their faith, and wrote about it, even while they were enslaved, and their minds were still free. And and it's funny how like some people don't want to hear this shit. And that's a weird thing about seeing the live numbers and stuff. It's like when I start talking about my culture, like part of my culture. Yes, I'm part European, Spanish, and whatnot. But like, dude, my pops is straight from Swaziland, Africa, and his family's from Mali, West Africa. And y'all don't want to hear? Y'all don't want to hear about Snoop Dogg? About NBC The Game's origin story? Yo, dog. If anything, you're gonna get get heated about. That's shit, man. Anyway, man. This is like I said, like we have a lot of contradictions. I'm not doing collective blaming because that's some bitch shit on people. But I'll end with this because y'all don't seem like. Well, I love the people in the chat; they're engaging or whatnot. But really, fuck you guys, like who take this shit for granted, dog. Like this is why under the Machiavelli Act we don't share about ourselves because motherfuckers don't appreciate it, man. But I appreciate Markella, Gary Baxter, Nick. You're gonna think about me when I'm gone. That's what I'm saying. I think I was on mute, which is probably good. Look, I'm saying I appreciate Markella, Gary Baxter, Shadow Buddha, Nick, Wheels, Wiccan for being here because, like, I'm telling you this origin story, and y'all, some of y'all like dip out. This is some important narratives, man. But I appreciate y'all for being here. I'm not gonna do the collective blaming things. But yeah, man. So the founding fathers, they were the dudes who wrote about all men are created equal, yet they owned slaves. Jefferson himself owned over 600 slaves in his lifetime. Washington had over 100. James Madison, the same deal. It's that double game of like we love freedom, except when it comes to black people, and we want religious freedom, but we don't free enslaved Muslims, and like y'all don't. That's my culture, baby. My father probably was a Muslim, right? My mama was a Spanish Catholic, and I'm not talking about Spain. Like she literally, her family's from the Basque Country. But anyway, so consciousness check. If these founding fathers, if they could talk about freedom and still have slaves, we got to ask ourselves, where in my life am I talking but not walking the walk? And what can we learn from all this? I think just because someone is great in history doesn't mean that they were perfect. And knowledge is power, Benjamin and friends. Jefferson read the Quran because he wanted to understand power and diplomacy, right? And maybe even some spiritual realization. And we can't build a future. We can't build a future unless we're honest about the contradictions of our past. Let's rise our consciousness and which is like seeing the whole picture, not just the pretty parts. So what do you guys think? Do you think Jefferson actually respected Islam, or was it just for politics? Should we? Do you think we should do more of a series about the hidden history with Muslims and other religions that aren't Christian, even Christian too? We can even do that. So, also, who's your favorite historical figure that didn't get enough credit? Drop it in the chat. Appreciate this, Markella. Donate. You can donate even when I'm not on stream. So next time someone tells you America's story is simple, just tell them, nah, fam, it's layered. And the founding fathers were reading Qurans. Muslim scholars were enslaved by writing Islamic books in America, and the contradictions were everywhere. And that's why consciousness is the goal. And Ben, we got to learn from the parts so we don't stop repeating the same dumb mistakes in the future. Hit the like and subscribe. Leave me a dono. And if you want the next live to be on African scholars who shaped the world but got hidden in history, let me know. Power, peace, and progress. I'll catch you on the next one. NPC the Game live. You're going to think about me when I'm gone, y'all. You're going to think about me when I'm gone. I'm out. Peace. Fucking motherfucking legend. I am a legend. But you are too. Peace.